Welcome to Agents Growth Academy. I am your headmaster, Jim Schubert. Are you ready to grow big or go home? Folks, I am super stoked about my guest today that I'm going to introduce in just a second. But before we get to that, I want to ask you a question. Are you having trouble influencing prospects or even getting a deeper foot in the door with some of your clients and getting them to open up to you? One of the things that I found that has worked over and over and over for people who are much smarter than me in the industry is finding ways to give first before you even ask for anything in return. And I've actually put together kind of a little compilation of some of these ways that you can give first if you're looking for ideas over at agentsgrowthacademy.com/value. Because the name of the download that you can get is 5 ways to provide value before asking for anything in return. So just go to agentsgrowthacademy.com/value, and you're going to find some great stuff in there from some other agents who are doing some super cool things and creative things that you can put into use right away. So today's guest is somebody that I think you're really going to enjoy. His name is Grant Botma. He is the founder of Stewardship in Gilbert, Arizona, and was named a top entrepreneur before he reached the age of 35. For the past decade, Stewardship has been providing home loans, insurance, and investment advice with wisdom and love. I love that. Grant has grown his business and his team, winning prestigious awards along the way. Awards like Broker of the Year for Arizona, Top Agent, Elite Producer, Top 1% in the nation, Top 20 in the nation, and more. Grant is also the author of the Amazon best-selling book, The Problem Isn't Their Paycheck: How to Attract Top Talent and Build a Thriving Company Culture. He also has just launched a new book called Work-Life Harmony: How to Enjoy Your Life and Family More because of, not in spite of, your work. As an ambassador of the Stewardship brand and with a heart to help others win, Grant often speaks at business events, teaching other business owners about how to manage people and develop winning teams properly. He loves his job because of the impact he gets to make as he works to love people through finances and company culture activism. Grant Botma, welcome to the show, sir.
Yeah, Jim, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
It's my pleasure. You know, I didn't even think to ask you, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
You did it right. That was awesome.
You
got this weird Dutch name correctly.
Yeah. People butcher Schubert all the time. It becomes Schubert. I'm like, did you go to school? I don't know.
Well, I get Batman, Boatman, So you did great with Botma.
I am Grant Botma. Awesome, man. You know, for folks that aren't really getting what I said at the beginning, you don't just have an insurance agency, right? There's other things going on. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah.
And why?
Well,
How did that come about?
A lot of it has to do with what you said at the beginning of adding value to clients or adding value to your community before asking for anything. It genuinely came to me researching the needs of people in my community and understanding wow, they're confused about a lot of things with finances, and I got passionate about that and I wanted to fix it. So I figured out, well, fine, I'll start some companies, and kind of my arrogance and pride figured I could do it better than the people that are already out there, and did it a little bit differently, and not only created the insurance, but wanted to help people with finances in many areas. So
yeah, that's awesome. Like a very holistic approach, kind of like raising a child in a holistic manner versus, just focusing on one thing. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about if this were going to be a master class, what would you name it? And you said how to grow your book of business without paying for leads. Now, I'm just curious, how does that work? Because I think a lot of people are thinking about, they got to spend a lot of money, right, to bring business in. And I guess, was there like a pivotal moment for you, or maybe, an epiphany that you had that, we don't have to spend a ton of money to do this? And how are you doing that?
Well, I rarely have very few, few pivotal moments or like things that I can look back on and say like, this was a thing that changed my perspective on stuff. For me,
Yeah.
I'm a processes person.
Yeah.
And I went through a process early on in my financial career. I was 15 years old and I was working for a credit card collection company. And
At
through
15?
that at 15, yeah.
Wow.
So I went to work for Discover Card when I was 15 years old. The story kind of goes they came to my high school for like a job fair,
Okay.
and I only went to get out of class. and,
What class was
uh,
that? Latin?
I don't just school for me. I mean, school was boring for me. I was one of those kids that could just remember everything. So I was like, what am I doing here? I'm wasting my time.
Yeah.
Uh, so I went to this job fair and they did like a mock phone call
Yeah.
where you have to pretend like you're collecting money from this other person on the other end of the phone. And when I was doing that, I guess the person was impressed with how I was doing that. And by the time I got home, there was a message on our phone. They were asking my dad to call them back because they wanted permission to have me work there because I was not 16 yet in our
Underage.
state. You had
Yeah.
to be 16 to be employed there without you need parent permission.
Wow.
So I started working there, and they provided some really cool training. Like they had some good thought out and like just a good process of like, this is what credit card collections is, and this is how you guys are going to do it.
Yeah.
But I didn't agree with it. So I did it differently. And when I called people, I figured if they were behind on a credit card, they were probably behind on a lot of different things in their life.
Okay.
So rather than calling and saying, hey, I need money, pay or else, I would say, hi, I'm Grant. You probably know you're past due on your Discover card. I work for Discover Card. Hey, what happened? Tell me what's going on. And I would just like take really, really copious notes. And I would never ask for money on the first call. And then what would happen is on the next call, I would look at the notes and say, hey, were you able to find a job yet? How's your job search going? Hey, is your leg injury? Are you doing okay? Are you able to walk again? Or, hey, how's your grandma doing? And I would just talk to them and build a relationship. And what would happen is when they did get money, again, they're past doing lots of different things. Who's the person you think they wanted to call back and pay first?
Yeah.
Well, it ended up being me. So while I was at school and my coworkers who were full-time were calling people all day long, I would come in like late, 4 or 5 o'clock as soon as I got out of school. And my incoming phone line and my messages were just like full because after several months, I was getting more collections and payments from people than anybody else, all from that approach.
Wow.
And as I was doing that, I was just kind of learning and recognizing like, man, this is a weird world, this whole like calling people and asking for things.
Yeah.
And I had friends that were working in like lead generation places where they would call and like create leads and then sell them to somebody else or another company. And it was just odd. And from there, I got a job in the mortgage world. And there were a lot of my coworkers and myself included who were given some of these leads. And what I found was a very small percentage of these leads really cared about our company, cared about what we were doing, and the level of interest was less than relational. It was extremely transactional.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the type of engagement that I appreciated as a professional. And really, as I put myself into the shoes of the potential client, I didn't appreciate that engagement as well. So that's a long story to let you know that I just don't like the idea of buying leads from the perspective of the client or the perspective of the sales professional. And I decided to create something different.
That's beautiful. I'm so curious. Was Discover Card, like, were they listening in on your calls and going, what in the heck is this guy doing? I'm actually surprised they didn't let you go soon after you started.
Well, what happened was
just because it doesn't fit their model, not because what you were doing was bad. Obviously, it's good.
Yeah. I had a lot of people at Discover Card who were frustrated with me. Most of them were older folks who had been there for years and years. And they were frustrated with the fact that like they were grinding. This was their job. And they were looking forward to their next smoke break. Where I was just like a kid who was like playing Nerf hoops while I was on the phone and enjoying myself. And like I just had different priorities in my life. and they got upset and jealous when I started winning a lot of the awards, that it became a company culture, the team that I was on, that
Yeah.
wasn't fun or healthy. So when I got recruited by other credit card collection companies, and then eventually recruited into the mortgage industry, it was very easy to move on.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was some disdain, mostly from the people who'd been there for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And a lot of it,
Huh.
I think, had to do with
Kind of
jealousy.
sounds like some insurance agencies I know
Yeah,
whose
yeah.
owners are maybe stuck in, 1980
Mhm.
and haven't really, and then you bring somebody on like you and they don't know what to do with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
I was 15 years old. I was a punk
Yeah.
kid, and I probably acted in too much pride and arrogance. And it's kind of like the pendulum with me. It's like I have some arrogance and pride about me for sure, but on the other end of it, I'm confident, and my confidence helps me take action. And I think that's a common thread in people who are able to make an impact in places
Yeah.
is they take action and they don't sit around, and that's important.
And what you were doing was taking the right action because you were literally building trust. I mean, you were, as people say, you were meeting them where they were and not judging them and not, making it, like you said, just a transaction. Like no wonder you were the first person that they would call back. That makes total sense. It's building trust,
Yeah, but I
being,
think it's more than that. It's like, yeah, I was building trust, but that's not what I was doing on purpose. I was just a kid. I
yeah,
didn't understand about
yeah,
that.
yeah,
What I really did is put myself in their shoes and was like, man, that seems kind of mean to just like call and tell people like, give me money. And
yeah,
I genuinely took care for these folks and say, well, what would I want to hear? What would
yeah,
I want? And did my best to say, what are their needs? What are they going through? And how can I serve them? How can I care for them? How can I love them?
yeah.
And I thought maybe they just need a guy to listen. And I tried it and it worked. I didn't know it would.
That's awesome.
I mean, if I got fired, who cared? I was 15. I'd go get a job at Taco Bell where I was working before, So it's like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. So now a few years have gone by, and I'm curious, what kinds of things has that mentality morphed into in terms of your own business's marketing and communicating and developing relationships with people?
Yeah, well, what I've discovered from that first job in finance when I was at Discover Card,
Yeah.
to kind of where things are at now is businesses, all of them exist for one fundamental reason, and that is to serve somebody somewhere. Through a product, through a service, something. That's how businesses fundamentally exist. The misnomer about business is that they exist to turn a profit.
Right. I was
And
going to
that
say,
kind of
we've been lied to.
yeah, yeah, and honestly, that kind of happened by some really intelligent business thought leaders in the 80s as they
Yeah.
were talking about building businesses to serve their stockholders.
Yeah.
They would tell people, well, we exist to turn a profit, right? Because that's what's best for the stockholders. But
Sure.
that's not true at all. The profit is a byproduct of serving somebody somewhere with the product and service that you provide. And the focus on that is the word serve.
Yeah.
And that's what we have done in our marketing approach. That's what we've done in our connection with our community approach. That's what we've done and try to obtain new business. It's not about buying leads to turn a profit. It's about genuinely putting ourselves in the shoes of the people in our community and understanding what their needs are. Where are their pain points, and what can we do to serve them
Mm.
with speed, with simplicity, with genuine care in a way that they appreciate. And from there, because we're serving them well, because that's the fundamental truth about all businesses of why they exist,
Yeah.
then the profit comes. And that's where our I think our difference is from most businesses.
And you left out a word because this is something I wrote down before we got on here. Your mission at Stewardship is that Stewardship aims to build better relationships with people and love them through finances. I was like,
Yeah.
we can love people through finances? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like that's revolutionary in my mind. I mean, honestly, because when you're talking about serving, what you're really talking about is we serve people because we love them.
Yeah, and it comes down to, okay, well, serving people, that seems ambiguous, Grant. What do you do? How do you do that?
Yeah.
And when I think about the best examples of somebody being served somewhere, for me personally, it comes to my relationship with Jesus and my faith and what I've noticed in the Bible. And what I really see, not only from that, but then also examples in my own life of when I've been served the best, it does revolve around that word love, where it's
Yeah.
genuinely putting somebody else's needs ahead of your own, and selflessness in that regard, and that choice, not a feeling, but that choice to love. And that's been an integral part of how we want to serve people. So that's been big.
Yeah, and I want to keep the conversation going like we are with the communication and everything, but I do want to say something based on what you just said. First of all, I want to say thank you for not being afraid to talk about your relationship with Jesus Christ and to be completely open. And it makes me think about your book, like the title of your book, Work-Life Harmony: How to Enjoy Your Life and Family More Because of, Not in Spite of Your Work. And I heard your podcast episode with James Jenkins, and I thought you guys were going on to some great things, talking about, how even just the concept of like work-life balance is so out of whack, because it insinuates that, we shouldn't be working as much. Well, that's not what we're called to do by God, right? We all have our own vocations, and the fact that you're, completely willing to and excited about melding all the different parts of your life together, so that it's just, to me, that's what I'm already getting at. Like, I haven't read the book yet, but that's what I'm already getting based on what I've heard you talk about before, is you're just sort of melding your entire life together and not compartmentalizing it, not separating it. I wonder if
that's the big thing, man. Like the whole idea of, I'm one way in the office and one way at home and one way with my friends on the golf course and one way at church, like that's exhausting.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, one of my biggest frustrations in life is when people use this phrase, well, that's just business. I freaking hate that so much.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's like an excuse for them to say, well, I'm allowed to be selfish.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to be a jerk. I'm allowed to be, to attack in a way that I shouldn't. And what is a lot more fun and a lot more enjoyable is living one life. And the premise of the book is to do that and to encourage people to have one life that's on one mission, but you're inviting all these pieces that are important to your life, your family, your work, and other areas into this mission, and you pursue it with intention. I just think it's sad, man, that this whole idea of work-life balance is about, hey, stop working so much. That just seems dumb to me. And now people carry this guilt whenever they think about work and they want to work. But man, we were created to contribute. Like, that's what we're created for. And dang it, I'm good at my job and I really like my job. So why should I feel guilty about doing that and doing that well? So I never tell people in the book to stop working. I just tell them to take specific steps to be more intentional about weaving their work into this one life that they have, and give some practical examples of how to do that. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, I know we weren't going to cover a lot about the book in this particular episode, maybe in another one, but I can't wait to pick it up and read it on my plane ride this weekend.
Yeah, you said you get to go to Hawaii. That's going to be a blast.
Yeah, thank you, auto owners. We did well, and really thank you, my employees, for doing such a great job in earning extra trips to take. That's one thing we love, is that a lot of agency owners will just take the trip that's won, even if they didn't earn it and everything. But for us, we let the people who earned it go, and then if they earn a second one, we'll actually pay them a bonus to say thank you, and then somebody in the leadership team will take that second trip. But we definitely feel
that's beautiful, man.
Yeah, they earned it, they should take it, right? So tell me about, let's talk about some specific nuts and bolts of, I have to tell you, I looked at y'all's website before we got on, and one of the first things, and I know this is intentional, but one of the first things that stuck out to me is what a sexy video that was playing, automatically on the Stewardship website. And it almost seemed to me like it was telling a story. And of course, there's no audio to it, but I have to imagine that's intentional. And I scrolled down the page and I was like, damn, this is beautiful. This whole design, and it was clear and it was concise and it had meaning. And yeah, I guess help me unpack, like, how intentional is all that? And are there any tools that and things that agency owners or agents themselves should be using, um, to help market themselves better and build deeper, better, more genuine connections more quickly? That's a
Okay,
lot that I'm
so I
asking
love
there.
this question, and the way that you're framing the question is very different than what any other podcast host has ever asked me before. So your audience is going to get information from me that they've never heard on an interview from me before. So this is going to be fun.
Yes.
uh, Everything on our website's extremely intentional, and it comes
Yeah.
down to the ideal action that we want our ideal customer to take.
Okay.
So our
Which
website is
is,
one of our primary ways for people to come and work with us. And I don't
yep.
want them to click on a button that says learn more. I don't want them to click on a button that says download this thing and give us your email. I don't want them
Mm.
to click on a button that says, they can get a quote. What I want more than anything else is for them to schedule an appointment with us. And that's a
Oh,
big ask. That's really,
wow.
really hard. So we have to be intentional with everything leading up to the website, but very intentional with the things on the website. So on that page, the number one goal is to communicate consciously and subconsciously, what's it like if I click that schedule an appointment button? What's my life going to be like? What's it going to feel like? What's it
Yes.
going to look like once I've scheduled that appointment? So that
Yeah.
video on top is letting them know this is what it's like when you come into our office. This is what it's like if you have a video meeting with us.
Yep.
This is what you can imagine your life being like if you click schedule an appointment, in the hopes of creating confidence to click that schedule an appointment button. Because again, we don't buy leads,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
my advisors, their calendars fill up with appointments from new prospects all day long. And guess what? No one coerced them or
Yeah.
sold them because they're a really great telemarketer
Yeah.
on this conversation.
Yeah.
They, on their own will and power, scheduled the appointment, and it works with their schedule because they scheduled it when they wanted, because they
Yeah.
get a link to our Calendly. And it's a completely different type of lead or opportunity.
Dude, that is beautiful. I just, I could tell in what you were just saying there that you know a thing or two about probably storytelling and influencing
Mm.
people, because it's all about showing. This is what you said a second ago. It's like we're showing them what life is going to be like. And that's what a story does, right? A good story. And sometimes a story shows what life was like before, and then it shows like a big moment and some kind of transformation, and then it shows what the new normal looks like. And what you guys are doing is showing what that new normal could look like. That's brilliant.
Yeah, and not only with images like that video you were talking about of what their life could look like if they click that schedule an appointment button, but also intentionally trying to weave in pieces of confidence. And this is called an authority piece, whether
Okay.
it be a quote from somebody, the number of testimonials that we have, an award that we have won. We weave those intentionally throughout to give them confidence, like, oh, these people are trustworthy. I can schedule an appointment with them. But
Okay.
beyond that too, we like tell them what happens after they schedule an appointment,
Yeah.
or these 3 steps, the 1, 2, 3 of what's going to happen, and
Yes.
really outlining that journey, that story that they're on. So yeah.
Yeah. This is actually something that we're about to embark on ourselves, because we realize we're not doing a good job. Like we've done all this work. You and I were talking off mic about EOS, which is the system we use in our business to kind of manage everything. And it helped us create our core values, helped us create our mission and all this stuff. And one of them is the customer life cycle, the customer process, or whatever you want to call that, like how we do business. And that's one
Mm.
thing we needed to do better about, is showing people what that's going to look like. Because it's kind of like if you're standing on opposite sides of a river and your client is on the other side and they don't know how to get across. What you just described is building stepping stones through the river to help them cross and greet you and enjoy that working relationship.
Yeah, and they're not going to cross the river if I'm on the other side and I tell them, "Hey, I've been in business since 1942 and my grandpa started the company, and here's pictures of us from when we first started." Like, all those stories are cool, but that's
Yeah.
not solving any of their problems. Like, why not stay on the other side of the river, right?
Yeah.
So we do very intentional research to discover what are their problems, why are they even thinking about crossing this river, or why do they need to cross this river? And
Yeah.
we talk about things that help them understand that on the other side of this river, life is better. So
Yeah.
we make the story about them. We don't make the story about us.
Yeah.
And the only time we try to make the story about us is when we want to give them confidence that we're safe. We can hold your hands
Yeah.
across these stepping stones. And these stepping stones, you can take those steps of confidence. So 100% agree with that analogy.
Yeah. That's awesome. So what are some of the things that went into building that? I mean, are there certain things that you have to like identify, like certain traits or features about your clients that you need to get to know, and before you build that out, like what does that look like?
Yeah, we are very intentional about doing research, not just one time, but every year on who our ideal client is.
Yeah.
We say that we want to love people through finances, but here's a hard truth. Love is two ways. It must
Mm.
be an action and something that you commit to, but someone also has to receive it. And sadly,
Yeah.
there are some clients that aren't excited about or don't care about receiving that love.
Yeah.
And as a result, working with those folks prevent us from loving the people who want to receive that love.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we do our best to fill our pipelines and opportunities with as many ideal clients as possible.
Okay.
So again, we call this the ideal client, not the only client. And for us, our ideal client, we've given a character to from a story. If you've ever watched the show on NBC, and I think it's done now, but Parks and Rec,
Oh,
our
I haven't actually
our
seen that. I know I'm
oh
probably
man,
one of the only people,
it's
but
so
I barely
funny.
watch TV.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But it's Jerry from Parks and Rec, and the
Okay.
reason why it's Jerry is because he exhibits the character traits of who we are at Stewardship.
Okay.
Our mission is to love people through finances, but how do we do that? We do that with innovation. We do that with transparency, humility, and love. And
Mm.
as a result, our best clients also have those character traits. So when we think about people who have those character traits, we wonder, what do they care about in their life? What are they
Yeah.
concerned about? What problems do they have in their life? How can we uniquely position ourselves to solve their problems? How are we maybe solving those problems now that we don't recognize or know about, and we can just invite them into it?
Yeah.
Really thinking through and putting ourselves in their shoes is super helpful. And the reality is, it's easier for us to do that if we ourselves are our ideal clients, and
Yeah. True.
everyone in our organization would consider
Yeah.
themselves an ideal client. So too many people do this thing, Jim, where like they have a demographic. Oh,
Yeah.
this age, this gender, this income. Here's the truth, man. I don't care if you're 18 or 81. If you come into our office with humility, love, transparency, and innovation, we want to serve you, and we're going to
Ooh,
serve you really well. So
that's
we do more
powerful.
psychographic research than demographic research.
That's powerful. And I'm glad you said psychographic, because we are totally guilty of what you're talking about. But we do have psychographic as like the last one. But maybe
Mm.
you're right. Maybe that's where we need to spend more of our focus and attention, and forget about, like, let's not age discriminate. Let's not do all these other
Mhm.
things, right?
Mhm.
We want to do business with people that are like us and that we enjoy being around and that have the same values, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's definitely the most important thing. But what is secondarily important is there are some financial demographics that are helpful.
Sure.
It's hard in insurance when you're working with somebody who doesn't have financial margin in their life,
Yeah.
because when their premium increases, even if it's only by 2 cents, they're going to freak.
Yeah.
And that's tough to work with those clients.
Yeah.
Not to say that they can't be served or shouldn't be served, but to say that you might not be positioned well to serve those folks. So we
Right.
do have some of those demographic traits, but instead of like giving dollar amounts or things to it, we say things like margin. People who
Okay.
have a positive difference between how much they spend versus how much they take in,
Yeah.
right? People who have a habit of saving.
Yeah.
Those folks, I can't help people build habits of saving. I can't help people be disciplined with their money, right? Now,
Yeah.
I can help them be wise with their finances. I can give them tools and resources to help them in that journey. But I'm not their mom or dad, right?
Yeah.
I don't control the house that they grew up in, or what influences them or what motivates them.
Yeah.
So that's important to recognize when you're doing this ideal customer exercise.
So what do you say to insurance agents out there who are listening to this and going, yeah, but Grant, that just seems like so much extra work. I mean, why don't we just keep doing things the way we've been doing it? Like, it's not, are those things really going to matter in the end? What do you say? I mean, do they?
Yeah. So here's some authority pieces. We've won Inc. 5000 fastest growing company in America twice. We
Wow.
are one of the top 100 fastest growing finance companies in the country. We were just named Rough Notes Agency of the Year.
Heck yeah.
So my P&L and balance sheet says it works. But beyond all of that, the reality of the scenario is there's an easy way to do things.
Yeah.
And then there's a hard way of doing things. And the way that I'm talking about isn't easy.
Yeah.
So if you're scared of hard work, which most of your listeners probably aren't, right? Because they're in this
Right.
industry and there's hard work involved.
That's why they're listening.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like don't do the hard work. But the biggest difference between doing things where you just buy leads versus doing things the way I'm talking about
Yeah.
is sustainability and consistency.
Mm.
Sustainability and consistency. Jim, it takes a lot of time to build those relationships, to
Yeah.
serve people and love
Sure.
people over and over and over and over again. And you might not see you won't see results right away. It's not
Yeah.
an immediate gratification thing, but
Yeah.
it's got a long tail to it. It's sustainable and it's consistent. So much so that right now, after years of doing this, my team, again, doesn't have to worry about where business is coming from. They wake up every morning and see appointments in their calendar, and it's a wonderful thing.
That is beautiful. So I want to get in just a second into the rapid fire round, but before we get to that, I'm curious, are there any mistakes in all of this that you've learned over the years in implementing this?
Oh, yeah. When we first started out, I tried to do our marketing and our branding to look like everybody else.
Yeah.
I saw these other companies and I want to be that. And I would try to emulate what they're doing. And that's not the right thing to do. Don't emulate Jim. Don't emulate Grant.
Mm-hmm.
Discover what makes you special and what you're passionate about, and
Yeah.
make your brand, make your marketing, make your communication about that. Something
Yeah.
that's important to me is this idea of having a harmonious work and family life.
Yeah.
And that came to me because of things that are happening in my life. My one of my best friends, my brother-in-law, was injured in an accident when he was 11 years old. He went in for hernia surgery, and he came out of that surgery completely brain damaged.
Wow.
And he's currently a completely different human being than he was as a child, and he needs full-time care. And my
Yeah.
wife and I have committed to caring for him. When I asked for permission to marry my wife, I invited him to be a part of that conversation because it was two questions. One, can I marry your daughter? But two, can I be Daniel's caretaker when the time comes? So because
Wow.
of that commitment and because of that part of life that is in us, we have no choice
Yeah.
but to be awesome with our work-life harmony. And
Yeah.
all of the things that we do, we know that we have to have margin in our life for so many things, including but not limited to loving and caring for Dan.
Yeah.
And that's important to us. So why would I write a book about work-life harmony? One, because I care about it and it's passionate to me.
Yeah.
And then two, this is what our ideal customer cares about. Our
Yeah.
ideal customer cares about work-life harmony and is also struggling and frustrating with the fact that man, I'm really good at my job, but my family has no idea how good I am at it,
Yeah.
Jim, are you married?
I am, with 3
What?
kids.
Oh, and what's your wife's name?
Megan.
Megan. Okay, so she probably doesn't listen to the pod. If she's anything like my wife, she doesn't listen to
No,
the
I don't
the
think she
podcast.
does. I
I'm
would
gonna
be
ask her to
shocked
listen
if she told me she did.
Okay, so I'm going to ask her to listen to this portion. Okay,
Okay.
Megan, this is my first time ever having a conversation with Jim. I've been on countless podcasts, but I can tell you right now that this podcast is different. From the time the video came on, I could see that he cared about visuals, audio, which means he cares about the experience of his audience.
Hmm.
And Megan, there was not a whole lot of preparation going into this podcast, but Jim has asked me questions that I've never received before from any other host. And as a result, the audience is going to get something out of me that they have never gotten before. And that's valuable. Megan, Jim is good at his job. He's really good at this. And I want you to know that.
Wow.
So, Jim,
I just bought a Valentine's Day card. Can I send that to you to write something in there for her? Because I think she would appreciate that.
Look, here's the thing. Like, it's sad to me that our ideal customer, that so many people in this world are having this work-life balance fight that's stupid and dumb. Yet there's these people that they care about most that have no idea how good they are at what they do. They have no idea the positive impact that's being made on the world because of what they do and how they do it. So to me, that message to Megan was genuine, man. I hope that there's a little shred of her now that is more connected with what you do, how you do it, and the impact you're making on the world, because that's important. And because I'm passionate about it, right? I create content and a book about that.
Yeah.
And now our clients care about that, and our ideal customer cares about that. So then when they read that book, they're now more connected with me and my company. And when the need comes up for them to be loved through finances, they'll consider us, right? So yeah, that's how that works.
In the words of a new friend of mine, I don't know, do you know Tommy Breedlove? He wrote a book called Legendary.
I do not know him.
Fantastic book. He always said, he always calls people beautiful humans. Grant, you are a beautiful human, sir.
Thank you.
Before
honestly,
we close
man, I'm a selfish, arrogant, prideful jerk, and a lot of who I am is the people in my life, including Dan. I mean, who he shapes me to be when I hang out with him, and who Jesus is in my life. Have anything good that you see from me is from that, man, not my own selfishness and idiocy.
Here, brother. I mean, we are all broken, aren't we? And in our own ways. And yeah, I appreciate that very much. I want to get into just a handful of quick questions, and then we can close it out, because I know your time is valuable, and so are our listeners' ears, and I know they like to take bite-sized chunks of content that is this deep, right? But good, but very good. So my first question for you is, what's one piece of technology or software that you can't live without?
I would say that scheduling tool, Calendly, because if we're going to ask people to schedule time with us and our team, we want them to be able to do it on their terms and make it easy. So this gives them free access to our calendars and makes our life and their life so much easier. I don't know where we would be without a scheduling tool like Calendly. We love it.
That's awesome. I use it personally, and I have not really thought to roll it out to our agents, but it makes so much sense based on what you've said today.
Oh yeah. It's an integral part of what we do and how we do it.
Yeah. What is your own book withstanding? What is one book that you absolutely love, or that you're reading right now that you want to share with folks?
Two books that I like to read every year are The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren and Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Ooh,
I think both of those books are unbelievable for personal well-being. For business books, I'm a huge fan of Dollar Miller and this Building a Story Brand book. And a lot of the stuff that he does is what I do on my website. So I think those are great books.
That's why I love your website so much, because I just finished reading that book and I was like, dude, I have to do this. And when I saw your website, I'm like, now it makes sense. I didn't even realize you basically tricked me. I didn't even see it, but I knew I loved it, and now I know why.
Yeah, it's a story brand website, and you didn't even know it.
Oh my gosh. Do you ever listen to books on Audible, or are you just a paper guy?
So I'm an author, but I hate reading. I don't enjoy it, but as what I love to do is listen to books. So I'm a huge Audible person. And actually, it's scientifically proven that you can retain more information by listening versus reading, especially if you speed it up so that your brain is focused to require. So I read on 2.0 or 3.0 speed, and I get through way more content.
Okay, you're kind of a freak. I'm not gonna lie. I can only do up to 1.5 times speed. So yeah, you're a freak.
Yeah, I'm weird.
But For folks that are listening, you've heard me say this before, but y'all, if you haven't tried Audible and you want to try it for yourself, it's how I preview books typically, and then I'll go buy the hard copy afterwards and make copious notes if it's really good. Go to audibletrial.com/grow big, and they'll give you a free Audible book that you can download and listen to. I think if you're Prime, you can actually get 2, and they give you like a month, before they charge you, but audibletrial.com/grow big. What's one final piece of advice or actionable step for our audience that you would leave them with, Grant?
Yeah. The key to marketing, the key to growing your business, the key to retaining business is genuinely care about people.
Yeah.
Again, the fundamental piece of business is you're serving somebody somewhere. And the absolute best way to serve somebody is with selflessness. You have to put their needs genuinely ahead of your own. And if you do that over and over and over again, and every year, every quarter, you make it a habit to research ways that you can serve people even better, again, by putting yourself in their shoes, discovering what their problems are, and just helping them, caring for them. You're going to grow, and your business is going to take off. And guess what? You're going to have a lot more joy focusing on it that way. Too many people, Jim, are like concerned about how do I make money? Well, give me an idea that I can make money on, or how can I make more money in my business? Like, you're thinking about it wrong. Just serve people. If you do that, the money will come. Profit is just a measure of how well you're serving people, because businesses are about serving people.
It reminds me what you're saying, something that Bishop Robert Barron, he's a Catholic bishop that I listen to and love reading and watching videos, but he talks about his definition of love is willing the good in the other. And that's exactly what serving people is. It's willing the good for someone else in them. And no more pure definition, but I love that. I kind of tricked you, because there is one final question, and it's not hard. Well, for some people it is. I don't know why, but it's chilly in Atlanta. It probably isn't in Arizona, but although I don't know, maybe since it's not 115 degrees currently, maybe you're freezing because it's like 60. I don't know.
Nah, it's 73 and sunny. I'm gonna go to the driving range after this, hit some golf balls. It's gonna be fun.
Love it. So, but if you were cold and I said, hey Grant, would you rather have a hot bowl of soup or some gourmet marshmallows with hot chocolate? Which would you prefer?
A hot bowl of soup. A hot bowl of soup all day long. One is like, I definitely eat sugar, but I try to stay away from sugar as often as possible. But yeah, something creamy, something cheesy, like a potato or a broccoli cheddar or a lobster bisque, something like that.
Love it. I'm going to send you a package from Spoonful of Comfort as a thank you for being on our show. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they do wonderful things in a package with soup and some extra goodies in there that you're going to love. But I want to, just as a thank you for being on the show, I want to send that to you from Spoonful of Comfort.
Thanks, Jim. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So stick around for a second. I'll get your address off air. But Grant, where can people go to get more Grant Botma in their life?
The best way is probably social media. I show up there every day, whether it be in a post, in a story, in a reel or something. Instagram at Grant Botma, Twitter at Grant Botma, and then Facebook if you friend me there. I'm showing up on all of those channels as often as possible. And just like the advice I gave towards the end of this podcast, my goal on social media is to help and encourage people. And my hope is that when you're following me, not only will I help you and encourage you, but I'm very active in my direct messages in social media. So feel free to reach out if you got questions.
Awesome, man. I love it. Thank you so much for being on the show. I think audience is going to get a ton out of this episode. I appreciate you making it very unique.
Yeah, it was fun. I appreciate you making it unique. Like I meant what I said. These were some really cool questions, and it's like a conversation I haven't had before in other podcasts. So this was great. Thanks for having me on, Jim.
My pleasure. Folks, until next time, grow big or go home.